Donald Trump is panicking this morning as Iran has been able to successfully strike down its fifth U.S. aircraft this week alone. Let me repeat that. In this week, Iran has been able to strike down 5 U.S. aircrafts since the United States broke the ceasefire that never really existed in the first place and hit the Strait of Hormuz. Also, we're learning this morning that the Iran Revolutionary Guard has been attacking armed groups in northern Iraq, which it says is working with the United States to go after Iran. State media in Iran says the IRGC has launched attacks on bases used by armed separatist groups in northern Iraq, which it says is being used in conjunction with the United States. The latest aircraft that Iran was able to strike down is the MQ-1 drone. It's a retired drone because the new one is the MQ-9 Reaper drone. 4 MQ-9 Reapers were knocked out of the sky this week by Iran. 1 MQ-1, and the MQ-1, even though it's retired, is still being used to a limited degree, and it has a bunch of other features that were kind of added on to it. So while that's going on, that's the truth. We have to talk about what's really happening out there, which is being covered up by the United States, CENTCOM, and our corporate news. This is what Donald Trump was posting this morning, that he wants a drone port as our drones, one by one, are being knocked out of the sky by Iran. This morning, Donald Trump posted, "The drone port at the White House ballroom will be perhaps the most sophisticated anywhere in the world. It will safeguard our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., long into the future. Judge Richard Leon should stop playing games with America's security." That's the federal judge who blocked the further construction of the ballroom, although that ruling has stayed pending a ruling by the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals. And Judge Leon said, you didn't get congressional approval for this. You can't just have private people or whoever you claim is funding this thing, funding a ballroom without congressional approval. So Donald Trump's been saying it's actually not a ballroom. It is a military facility that we need for national security. That's why American taxpayers need to pay $1 billion. And it is a drone port, so we can develop a drone army in Washington, D.C. So when people show up to D.C., you just see drones, military drones flying all around. Then Trump goes on to talk about how this judge has already created enough problems by allowing top secret information to be released and exposed based on a ridiculous lawsuit started by a highly litigious woman who's strolling in her. I mean, this is just ridiculous. I don't need to read any more of that. So Donald Trump has sent out to do the morning shows, his regime sycophants. You had Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent this morning. He went on state regime media, which calls itself Fox, after that horrific interview that Donald Trump did with Lara. You saw that, where Donald Trump was like, I purposefully kept Iran's military intact. I want them to be strong because they're the moderates. The IRGC, Trump says, they're the moderate people. So of course I wouldn't destroy the military because I like talking to them, is essentially what Donald Trump said. Anyway, here's what Treasury Secretary Bessent had to say. Let's play this clip.
Well, soon.
Now, a lot of people have asked me recently, will President Trump finish the job?
Well, again, what does finish the job mean? Because if finish the job means making sure that Strait of Hormuz is open, that we get the highly enriched uranium, and that Iran doesn't have a nuclear weapon, that is finishing the job.
Okay.
That's finishing the job. And to be clear, that by whether it's the military intervention, the blockade, or the economic fury, this is the first time the Iranians have ever been willing, 47 years, have been willing to discuss not having a nuclear weapon. It was...
Just to remind you, during Donald Trump's interview, he was boasting to Maria Bartiromo that the negotiations are going so well because maybe the Strait of Hormuz gets open. And he said, I told Iran, not only can you not make nuclear weapons, but you can't buy nuclear weapons. And they were like, oh, we can't buy them? What a breakthrough. That's what Donald Trump is claiming is his art of the deal, his art of negotiations. Here, play this clip.
I would rather get a deal because we can open the strait immediately upon signing. The one guarantee that I have to have is that there will be no nuclear weapons. They've agreed to that. And it was very interesting. They originally said, we will not develop a nuclear weapon. I said, well, what happens if you buy a nuclear weapon? So now it says we will not develop or in any way purchase a military weapon. That's a big difference. So we're getting what we want slowly. Very tough negotiators.
And then just to remind you, here is where Donald Trump said that he kept Iran's military in power because they're so moderate and he likes talking to them, just so you can see for yourself. Let's play this clip.
Their Navy is totally gone, 100%. Their Air Force is totally gone, 100%. Their military, we've sort of left it alone because we think that their military is somewhat moderate. They have other people that aren't moderate. We've taken them out. We've taken different forms of leadership out. We've actually left their military alone. People would be surprised to hear that, because mistakes have been made in wars where you wipe out everybody and then you have a country that's, for 40 years can never rebuild.
So one of the things that Donald Trump was leaking to Barack Ravid of Axios earlier in the day, and that the Trump regime was leaking, is that we can't speak with the Iranians because they're in caves and they're cavemen, and that's why these negotiations are taking so long, because they're in caves. Well, here's a group of the Iranian leadership right here. We know who their leaders are, and they're posted on their state media. Oath of the new members of parliament, presiding board with the presence of 201 representatives virtually and in person right here, chaired by MB Ghalibaf, who's the leader of Iran's parliament. You see him right there in the middle. And here's what Iran's lead negotiator, MB Ghalibaf, and parliament leader, here's what he said. In the new phase of war, the enemy, through economic pressure and media campaigns, seeks to create division and destroy the country's cohesion in order to compensate for its military defeat and force us to surrender. What a vain delusion. The great and history-making nation of Iran knows today that they stand at a sensitive and historical juncture that future generations will envy. They are resisting against a bloodthirsty and murderous enemy that is determined to destroy Iran and Islam, so that the Iranians of future years will be proud of their fathers and mothers. The most important factor for victory in this war is cohesion and unity. What has caused the enemy's retreats, alongside the military power of the combatants, is the steadfastness of the people and their unity against a ruthless enemy. This secret to victory must be preserved. So that's what they're saying in Iran right now, which again, you won't hear here on corporate news. You'll hear the propaganda. Oh, they're all in caves. They're not in caves. They're stronger than ever. And Donald Trump's the one out there with his regime constantly begging for deals that Iran keeps on rejecting, because Iran has set its terms, the same terms, since March. It's been very clear what it was. And Donald Trump's been the one telling us since March, we're a day away. We're 5 days away. The deal's about to happen. The deal's about to happen. It's going to happen. All right, I'm going to bomb them. All right, I'm not going to bomb them. Ceasefire, no ceasefire, ceasefire, no ceasefire. Just evaluate the conduct that we all see in public before our eyes. Like, evaluate what we're observing. That's why I say play the clip, right? Because Donald Trump will say, I destroyed the military, and then he'll say, I kept the military alive. I'm just showing you what he's saying. Speaking of showing you what they're saying, Kevin Hassett, Donald Trump's national economic advisor, he said, American consumers aren't down in the dumps. American consumers are doing great. He said it's Democrats who are feeling bad about the economy right now. Republicans love this economy right now. Here's what he said this morning on state regime media. Play this clip.
So on balance, real incomes, real wages are going up.
But are you saying the Americans are not hurting? I mean, we're hearing that not just, I mean, a whole bunch of different economic indicators, but just talking to people. I mean, people seem anxious and uneasy about the economy, don't they?
Well, look, in the end, people look at their wallets and they decide how to vote. And if they look at their wallets and look at how much money they have after, the increase in prices, they're going to find that they have a lot more money. And the other thing I could say is that the Consumer Sentiment Index that was cited is a Michigan survey that's extremely partisan. I talked about this on TV last week, that basically when Joe Biden was there, the Democrats in the survey, they were euphoric. Their index was way above above 100% during stagflation. Right now, it's the lowest on record, something like 30%. And so when you say that American consumers are really down in the dumps, what it is Democrats are in the dumps. Republicans have actually stayed around 80% on that survey all the way through.
Then he says that the Bureau of Labor Statistics numbers are all basically false. I'll show you this clip right here.
For manufacturing workers, for mining workers, the numbers are really astonishing. For mining workers, their real incomes this year are up $7,000 per year.
Okay, so you talk about growing wages, but the Bureau of Labor Statistics, according to their data, inflation is now outpacing wage growth. So if people are making more money, but things are costing more, how do you answer that question and that concern?
That's a technical matter. It's the personal income report that came out last week that said that it was slightly negative. But personal income includes lots of things like transfers and food stamps and things that we have been reducing as part of our effort to make government leaner and meaner. And so the best measure right now is to look at the wage data. That's by far the best measure, and the real wage data are showing big increases right now.
Okay,
and folks, this is why it's so important that we have an accurate news diet right now, and we understand the sources of information, where propaganda is coming from. We need to get at the truth. It's why I use Ground News to do my reporting every morning. It's where I get my research from. They have this blind spot feature, which shows me what's the left-wing media networks reporting, what's the right-wing media networks reporting, what's generally how media are reporting. So, like, look at this story right here. This is important. Iran war forces farmers to seek fertilizer alternatives from cow dung to compost. So one of the main issues, we always talk about crude oil not leaving the Strait of Hormuz. We talk about oil prices going up. This has also impacted the supply chain for fertilizers. And yet again, the same way Donald Trump's tariffs against the world have destroyed farmers, creating input costs to go up significantly. Donald Trump's had to bail out farmers, also reducing the markets that farmers can sell to because people don't want to buy America anymore. When Donald Trump attacks all these countries with trade wars, we're seeing a massive spike in fertilizers. I mean, I know we have a lot of farmers who watch us, but fertilizer costs right now make it prohibitively expensive when it was already prohibitively expensive. But notice this, no right-wing media is covering this story. And I would assume that there are a lot of farmers who may lean right-wing, who might lean, not all of them, but Republican, and they're not they know their experience, but it's just fascinating to me that it's not being reported. Same thing over here with this story. International competition to build Canada's next submarine fleet enters the home stretch. You see this right here. Canada, like many nations around the world, are not buying military equipment from America, or if they are, they're reducing their reliance on American military equipment. And you see over here, only 6% of right-wing media is covering that. So I partner with Ground News to be able to make these connections and say, okay, what do I need to focus on? They're the best tool for me to stay objective in my reporting. And so for every story, the color-coded layout makes it easy to see the political bias of the source. It also tells me if corporate news is behind a story, if independent news is behind a story. So the article I just shared with you, it showed that right-wing media was mostly ignoring these critical stories. And so I believe in Ground News. I hope you try it out as well. Use the research tools that I use. I always get asked, Ben, what research tools do you use? We're offering you 50% off the same Vantage plan that I use for my research. So go click the link in the description or go to ground.news/MTN or scan the QR code up here. It's one of the biggest discounts they've ever offered. If you want to support the channel and get a clearer understanding of the world, try out Ground News. One more time, that's ground.news/MTN or scan the QR code up here. Going back to what Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent was saying, speaking about needing an accurate media diet, he's on regime media, which calls itself Fox, and Bessent claims inflation's not a big deal. It's just a limited spike. Here's what he says. Let's play this clip.
Let me get your assessment of the economy today. Are you surprised that the markets have been incredibly resilient, that the consumer seems to be still holding up, even though we are seeing a spike in inflation?
Well, again, it's a very limited spike, I think. If you look, it's energy driven. It's a supply shock. We will get to the other side of this. Markets live in the future. Markets are looking through this. And
then you have Doug Burgum Donald Trump's Interior Secretary asked a very basic question on CNN by Dana Bash. There are lots of questions about who's funding and who's behind Trump's Freedom 250 thing, which usurped the power of what should be a nonpartisan thing, which is America 250. Who's funding this? Who's financing it? And he's like, we're running it out of the White House. We're like CEOs in a boardroom. CEOs don't need to share with you what we're doing. You're the government. You work for we the people. You work for us. You need to tell us what you're doing. Stop. You're not CEOs in a business who have proprietary information. This isn't classified information. Who the hell is behind this corrupt thing? Here, play this clip.
There are questions from Democrats about where this private funding is coming from, and it's not transparent. Do you think that that should be opened up to the public so that people see where it's coming from?
I think transparency is always a good thing. And of course, I work for the president that I think is the most transparent ever. I mean, there's not a CEO in the country that invites the entire press pool into their board meetings. And we haven't had a cabinet meeting in the first 6 months.
So you're going to make the donors to Freedom 250 public?
Well, that's up to the Freedom 250 organization and their arrangements with their donors.
You're a leader there, right?
The Freedom 250 organizations run out of the White House, but it is not it's not about the transparency of the donors, and this is about Americans celebrating the 250th anniversary. And
then you hear more from Kevin Hassett over here, and he's like, people are spending more on gas, sure. This gas is more expensive, but people are spending more on everything else. Not just groceries, but restaurants. And so the economy's thriving right now. What are you talking about, bud? What are you talking about? People are suffering. They have to spend more money on these other things, which they're not spending as much. That's why consumer sentiment's down. Here, play this clip.
One of the reasons is that people are spending more on gas, but they're also spending more on everything else, not just groceries, but restaurants and so on. And I think that that's a sign that you would see when people are optimistic about the future. So generally what we see when people are worried they're going to lose their job, which they shouldn't be because initial claims for unemployment insurance about the lowest they've ever been. When they're worried they're going to lose their job, that's when they stop spending like crazy and start saving money because they're worried they might not have to pay, they might have the money for their paying their rent. And so what we're seeing right now is spending based on optimism about the future. And if you consider how big the boom is going to be, like right now, Atlanta Fed's GDP now is about a 4% growth for the current quarter. If you look at how big the boom will be when the straits open, then it's reasonable for people to be optimistic.
Well, we hope there is reason for optimism with the strait and beyond. Director Hassett always.
And then I just note in the background of all of this, or in the foreground of this, I should say, while people want this war over, and one of the impediments is that Israel continues to strike deep into Lebanon, leveling whole cities of Lebanon. Recently, Tyre or Sur in Lebanon. It's a big deal, and Iran saying we need a ceasefire and a security guarantee that's in Lebanon, that's real and durable in Lebanon. And Israel knows that it doesn't want this deal between Iran and the United States right now. Netanyahu and Israel brought us into this catastrophic war in Iran. And they know if we just keep going after Lebanon and keep striking in Lebanon, that can keep this thing going. So here's what Netanyahu said this morning. I instructed the IDF to expand the maneuver in Lebanon. Our forces crossed powerful obstacles. They seized commanding terrain and captured the Beaufort Ridge. And now my instruction is to deepen and expand our hold on areas that were under Hezbollah's control. We're initiating action. We are operating on all fronts in Syria, in Gaza, in Lebanon. It will take time, but we will complete the mission. What's the mission? What's the mission? Is the mission further genocide? What's the mission? And we need to stop these wars. We need to stop these never-ending wars, and we need to stop having the United States dragged into all of this stuff. I'll end with this. This is what was being reported late last night. I'm sure as we get closer to the markets opening, Barack Ravid will post something different, but this is what was yesterday. Trump has toughened the terms of a potential framework for a deal to end the war in Iran and has sent those proposed changes back to the country for consideration, according to 3 officials with knowledge. Okay. And Aaron Astor says, what's the logic here of offering tougher terms to Iran? Are they supposed to be impressed? Iran doesn't need a deal right now. The only way to change the situation is to either accede to Iran's own demands or attack Iran militarily again. Both are fraught, but that's it. The logic is illogic. This is intended purely for Donald Trump's base. Donald Trump is wavering and failing, and Iran has him right where they want him, weaker than ever in this negotiation. So Donald Trump wants to act like he's in charge of the negotiation, even though Iran's dictating the terms. So Trump puts that out there to his propaganda. So it seems like I made the harsh terms. That's why the deal fell apart, because I was being strong, versus Iran maintaining its